It's easy to look back and see nothing but lost time, failed relationships, or plans that never worked out. The truth is, your mind is wired to register those moments as losses, as if they're gone forever, leaving you with a sense of disappointment that's hard to shake. But what if those lost years weren't lost at all? What if every setback, every painful ending, was actually the universe storing up something for you, like seeds planted in the dark, waiting for the right moment to break through? Jung believed that what you accept transforms you, and that nothing from your past is ever wasted. If you've ever wondered why your pain doesn't make sense yet, you're about to see how even your hardest moments might be building something you can't see yet. So if this speaks to something deep in you, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of reframing your past and reclaiming your future. Let's look at what's actually happening when you're hurting. The pain you carry, those moments that felt like the world had turned against you, doesn't just leave scars. It shapes you, sometimes in ways you don't even notice until much later. The reality is, pain isn't a signal that you're broken. It's a sign that you're being changed, even if it feels like you're just barely holding on. Think about the pressure that turns coal into a diamond. It's not comfortable, and it's not quick. The coal sits in the dark under immense weight for years. Most of the time it looks like nothing is happening, but inside the pressure is transforming it into something valuable. Your pain works the same way. Every disappointment, every loss, every moment you thought you couldn't survive, it's all pressure. But it's also the force that's making you stronger and more aware. Carl Jung called this process the integration of the shadow self. He believed that everyone has a shadow, a collection of the parts of ourselves we try to hide or ignore. These are the fears, regrets, and insecurities that we push out of sight because they make us uncomfortable. But when life brings pain, those hidden parts come to the surface, and facing them is not a sign of weakness. It's actually the first step toward real strength. When you acknowledge the parts of yourself you'd rather avoid, you start to understand who you really are. That understanding is what gives you power. Resilience isn't just a word people throw around to sound wise. It's what you build when you survive things you thought would break you. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of a concentration camp, showed the world that meaning can grow out of suffering. He said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Frankl's pain didn't just end with survival. It became fuel for a philosophy that has helped millions of people. His story is proof that pain, when faced head-on, can become a source of strength for you and for others. Now think about your own life. After the worst storms, have you noticed small changes? Maybe you guard your boundaries more carefully. Maybe you value your time and energy in ways you never did before. These shifts don't always announce themselves. Pain rarely gives you answers in the moment. Instead, it leaves clues that only make sense when you look back. The lessons show up slowly, sometimes years after the fact. And your growth isn't just for you. That's the unexpected part. The strength you build from your pain can reach other people, even if you don't realize it. Maybe you found comfort in someone else's story of surviving. That's how your own journey can inspire others too. Just by making it through, you become proof that it's possible. You might already be helping someone else keep going, simply by existing as evidence that change is possible. But the story doesn't end there. Jung believed that the universe has a way of returning what feels lost, often in ways you don't expect. Sometimes what you thought was gone forever finds its way back into your life, transformed by everything you've learned. And sometimes it's not just about you. It's about the connections and opportunities that resurface when you're ready. Maybe you've experienced this. Out of nowhere, someone from your past reaches out. An old friend, a former colleague, or even a relationship you thought was long over suddenly reappears. It catches you off guard. These moments can feel random, almost unsettling, but there's more going on beneath the surface. The return of lost connections isn't just about nostalgia or unfinished business. It's often a sign that something deeper is at play. Carl Jung described these meaningful coincidences as synchronicity. It's the idea that events in your life, even the unexpected reappearance of people you thought were gone, aren't just accidents. They're connected by a thread of meaning that you might not see at first. When someone or something from your past resurfaces, it's rarely just a replay of old times. It's usually because you and the other person have changed in ways that make the connection relevant again. The universe, in Jung's view, operates in cycles. What left your life may return, but with new purpose and perspective. Think about the connections you've lost over the years. Maybe you drifted apart from someone important. Maybe a promising opportunity slipped away because the timing wasn't right. It's easy to believe those chapters are closed for good. But often, those connections aren't gone. They're simply paused, waiting for the right moment to return. When your inner world shifts, when you see things differently or grow in unexpected ways, you start to attract back experiences and people who now fit your current path. It's not about repeating the past. It's about building something new on top of what you've learned. There's a pattern to these returns. Take the example of someone who lost touch with a friend after college. Years went by, life moved on, and then suddenly, that friend reached out. Not to reminisce, but with a new opportunity that matched where both of them were in life. That reconnection wasn't just about catching up. It was about collaboration, growth, and timing. The universe didn't waste the old bond. It waited until both people were ready for something more. This isn't rare. Old relationships, abandoned projects, or missed chances can circle back when you're better equipped to handle them. The important thing to recognize is that these moments don't happen in a vacuum. Your internal growth sets the stage. When you change your mindset, heal old wounds, or simply become more open to new possibilities, you create space for these connections to re-enter. Sometimes they bring closure. Other times, they open doors you didn't know were still available. The point isn't to chase the past, but to notice when it returns with new meaning. You might not always recognize the significance right away. A text from an old friend, a job offer from a company you almost worked for years ago, or a chance meeting that leads to something bigger. These are all ways the universe brings back what once seemed lost. Each return is a chance to see how much you've grown and to use that growth in a new context. If you look closely, you'll see these cycles in your own life. The people and opportunities that come back often arrive at the exact moment you're ready for them. It's not about luck, it's about alignment. Your readiness meeting the right circumstances. And when you start to notice these patterns, you begin to understand that what felt like an ending was really just a pause. But the story doesn't stop with familiar faces or old opportunities. Sometimes these cycles set the stage for something completely new, an unexpected door opening when you least expect it. And that's when you realize that what seems random might actually be the universe's way of moving you forward. Sometimes a new opportunity appears right when you stop expecting it. An offer, a project, an introduction that seems almost too fitting. You might wonder if it's just luck, but these moments often signal something deeper. They aren't just random events dropped into your life. They're the result of everything you've experienced, learned, and carried forward, finally converging at the right point. People often dismiss these chances as coincidences, chalking them up to good fortune or timing. But Jung's idea of synchronicity challenges that view. He argued that events can be connected not by cause and effect, but by meaning. The right opportunity shows up not because you chased it endlessly, but because you've become the person who's ready for it. The invisible patterns in your life, your skills, your setbacks, your quiet persistence, are always at work, shaping the ground for these moments to arrive. Think about someone who spends years honing a skill without knowing why. Maybe you learned to code in college but never used it. Or you picked up a language and then forgot about it. Years later, the job you want suddenly requires that exact skill. Or maybe a hobby you considered pointless becomes the foundation for a new business or relationship. These aren't isolated incidents. They're examples of how the universe weaves your past into your present. returning what seemed lost but in a form that fits who you are now. Julia Child is a clear example. She didn't become a chef until her late 30s, and her rise to fame came even later. Her early life didn't point to her future success, but every experience, every lesson built the groundwork for what was coming. The universe didn't waste her time. It prepared her for the moment when everything would align. The same principle applies to you. The skills, relationships, and lessons you thought were pointless are often the very things that equip you for opportunities you couldn't have handled before. This is why it's important to recognize that nothing you've invested in yourself is ever truly wasted. Even the failed attempts and forgotten dreams play a part. When the right situation appears, it's not luck. It's the result of a long process, your growth, your setbacks, the time you spent doubting or waiting. The universe doesn't give back exactly what you put in. It transforms your efforts, returning them in a way that fits your current life. Timing is crucial. If these opportunities had arrived years earlier, you might not have been able to see their value or make the most of them. The frustration of feeling like you missed out or wasted time is real, but it's often a sign that you were still in the process of becoming ready. The alignment between your growth and the arrival of new possibilities isn't accidental. It's a sign that everything is finally coming together. This perspective changes how you look at your past. Instead of seeing wasted years, you start to see preparation. Instead of regretting missed chances, you notice how your experiences have quietly shaped you for what's next. The moments that once felt random or out of reach reveal themselves as part of a larger pattern, one that makes sense only when you're ready to see it. And as you start to notice these patterns, another question emerges. What if the timing of your life has been working in your favor all along, even when you felt left behind? There's a moment when everything you've carried, every setback, every lesson, every quiet effort starts to come together. This isn't luck or wishful thinking. It's what happens when your internal growth finally matches what the world is ready to offer you. The idea that you're running out of time is powerful, but it's also misleading. Jung didn't see time as a one-way street. He saw it as a cycle where your experiences loop back, reappearing when you're actually prepared to use them. Think about all the times you pushed for something to work, a job, a relationship, a dream that just wouldn't move forward. It's easy to see those moments as failures, proof that you missed your shot. But as you change, as you gain insight and resilience, you start to see that those closed doors weren't dead ends. They were checkpoints. You weren't being rejected, you were being prepared. Jung's idea of synchronicity explains this. When your mindset and your purpose line up, opportunities that once seemed out of reach start to show up naturally. What felt like delay wasn't wasted time. It was the universe waiting for you to be ready. Take the story of Colonel Sanders. He spent decades facing setbacks and rejection, his ideas dismissed, his recipes turned down. It wasn't until his 60s that everything clicked. His success didn't come because he finally got a break. It came because years of hardship had shaped him into someone who could handle it. The years weren't lost, they were necessary. The same thing happens in smaller ways all the time. You struggle with a skill, fight with a challenge, and then, almost without warning, it clicks. The timing wasn't random. It was about reaching the right level of readiness. This isn't just about famous stories. It's about your everyday life. Maybe you've wrestled with a problem for years, only to find the answer after you've changed your perspective. The solution wasn't available to the old version of you. It only revealed itself when your understanding caught up. That's how alignment works. The universe isn't holding you back. It's making sure you're equipped for what comes next. When time and readiness finally meet, things that once felt impossible start to look manageable. Obstacles shrink, and new paths become visible. You don't have to force things the way you once did. Instead, you notice that progress happens with less resistance. The sense of struggle gives way to a sense of momentum. This is the point where you realize that the time you thought was lost was actually time spent getting ready. The truth is, the delays and detours weren't setbacks. They were the groundwork for your comeback. Every frustration, every period of waiting was building the foundation you need right now. And as you stand here, you have the chance to see that all of it, the pain, the patience, the persistence, has brought you to a new starting point. The next move is yours. Every struggle, setback, and moment of doubt has brought you to now, the present, where everything you've invested starts to reveal its value. This is the point of restitution. It's not just a poetic idea. It's the phase where the universe begins returning the energy, time, and effort you thought were lost. The present is where the past finally translates into something real, something you can use. All the lessons, the patience, the resilience you built up, they're not sitting idle. They're ready to be put to work. The fear that nothing matters, that your sacrifices led nowhere, is just the residue of old disappointments. It lingers because it hasn't caught up to what's happening now. The truth is, the universe doesn't waste anything. The energy you poured into relationships, the hours spent learning from failure, the choices you made to keep going, all of it is accounted for. The present is the moment when those investments mature. This is when the seeds you planted, often without realizing it, begin to break through the surface. Think about the times you acted out of hope, even when you couldn't see a payoff. You showed up for people, you pushed through hard days, you kept learning and growing even when it felt pointless. Each of those moments was a seed. The ground might have looked barren, but underneath, roots were forming. The present is the season when those roots become visible, when the work you've done quietly in the background starts to pay off in ways you couldn't predict. Even the experiences that felt like dead ends, lost relationships, missed jobs, failed plans, weren't wasted. They were shaping you, giving you skills, boundaries, and clarity that you couldn't have gained any other way. Maybe you learned to set limits, or you discovered what you truly value. Each lesson, no matter how painful, was making you ready for what's happening now. You're not the same person you were when you started. You're equipped not just with knowledge, but with a kind of maturity that only comes from living through difficulty. J.K. Rowling's story is a clear example. Years of rejection and struggle didn't just disappear when she found success. Those years gave her the depth and resilience to create something lasting. Her past wasn't wasted, it was transformed into a foundation that supported her breakthrough. That's how restitution works. What once felt like loss becomes the very thing that makes your current success possible.